Hi, my name is Angie Wells. I am a managing broker at Virtual Properties Realty, and today I'll be discussing helping our clients, buyers and sellers, navigate the home buying or home selling process.
What is your approach to securing listings? How do you determine the right price for a property?
Okay, so I want to, for one, determine what the seller needs best out of the deal. What is their motivation for for moving? Because then I need to determine, do we need to be on the highest priced end of the list price or the higher end of the list price, or do we need to be on the lower end of the list price? Do you need a quick sale? What's your motivation there? And then I definitely go to all the comps in the area. We do some touring sometimes of properties in the area so that seller is able to help in comparing properties to their own, because sometimes the seller can get very emotional with their home, and sometimes it helps to see other homes and to really be able to compare the properties and determine how to best list the property.
Once a buyer has found the right home, how do you guide them through making an offer? And how do you approach negotiating with sellers?
I want them to have the home that they love. And then we talk about pricing. We look at comparables in the area and make sure that we're getting them the best price for the property. And then I sort of lead them through. I've already talked to them about earnest money. I've already talked to them about inspections. I've already talked to them about the loan. We've already locked that down. So now it's a matter of making sure that we make a good, strong offer to help them get the home that they want. I make it a point to correspond with the other agent, to introduce myself, to let them know who I am, what we're working on, and that I'm looking forward to co-oping with them on this deal, so that we can all get to the main objective, which is to get our buyer and seller to the closing table, which is so they can get the home they want, so the seller can sell the home they're trying to sell. So I go over the entire contract with them, and I let them know any possible pitfalls. I let them know time is of the essence. Time is of the essence. Time is of the essence. And so that they are aware that everything that is needed, you need to be moving. You're constantly moving. Don't stress out. Take a couple of M&Ms and call me in the morning if you feel stressed out. But we're going to walk through this from start to finish, and we're going to get you in the home that you love. But here are some possible pitfalls. There's a due diligence period. There is an inspection. You want to make sure that you are looking at everything so that they know. I want to make sure the buyer never gets blindsided by something that comes up. And that's what I'm here to do with them.
What are the key things you focus on in the closing process to ensure everything goes smoothly for your clients?
So the numbers are real important. So I try to make sure that we get the numbers as quickly as possible. I really try to make sure that they've already had their numbers locked down, and so that they're good. And here again, that nobody gets blindsided with the numbers. I want to make sure that everything is done with the inspection, make sure that all the work has been completed. And so there's going to be another walkthrough. I try not to do too many amendments toward the end, but just want to make sure that everything is nailed down, that we've crossed every T, dotted every I. Want to make sure, once again, that we're doing final walkthroughs, so that the buyer is able to see and not have to walk into anything after the closing. Try to make sure that they know all the utility companies to call, to go ahead and get those things turned on and get that process started. Um, Change of addresses. I try to get them prepared to make a smooth transition after closing. And that starts for me prior to the closing, just before the closing.
What are some of the most common challenges you face when guiding a client through this process, and how do you overcome them?
Just things that pop up. The seller has changed their mind about this or that, about what repairs and things along that line. So I try to use the IPDE system, IPDE. Identify the problem, predict the worst, determine some ways to get around it, and then if needed, expedite. So one of the ways that I do it is identify the problems and I disclose them, the possible hiccups to the buyer. I want to disclose to the client, disclose. Predict what could happen and even let them know this could possibly happen. Sometimes this can happen, and I can give them scenarios. Um, and then decide or determine here's what we can do. Here are some possible ways that we can work around it. For example, we do this inspection. The seller doesn't want to do the work. So you may do additional closing contributions. You may determine that you want to do the work yourself after the deal closes. So there are things along that line. And then when we have to execute, when we go back to the other agent and say, hey, here's the report, here's the amendment of repairs, the buyer already has determined that there are some issues that they want to get done, or a lot of times they've already put a monetary amount together in their mind. And so now it's just a matter of trying to negotiate that. And so I've avoided in my mind the some possible hiccups there. And once again, my buyer from getting blindsided.
How do you keep clients updated throughout the buying or selling process? How often do you communicate and what's your approach?
Helping them in ways of just, how do you execute once you've gotten the feedback? This room is too cluttered. Maybe you can put it in the garage. Maybe you could get a pod, things along that line. And then after there have been several showings, then I can go back to them and say, listen, we've got a few showings. That's the market, and the market is determined that this may not be your price point. So we go and we look at other properties or we compare to other properties. I keep pulling other properties to determine what has come on the market and what has gone under contract in the same price point as yours that the market has clearly accepted, while I don't want to say rejecting, but has really rejected your sales price. So we sometimes have to determine. I give feedback, and then we have to determine whether price adjustments need to be made, whether adjustments to the home need to be made based on the feedback. And so I talk to them once a week until the deal gets started. Then it could be as much as every day. If nothing's going on, then it's going to be a couple of days, but they always know that I'm watching, that I'm in touch, and I'm always giving them updates, whether anything is moving or not. With my buyers, I'm talking to them almost every day. And when I'm not speaking with them, I'm speaking to the lender. I'm speaking to maybe the inspector. I'm speaking to maybe the closing attorney, and I'm giving my buyer feedback. When it's new homes that my buyer is purchasing, I am constantly going by and taking pictures, sending progress pictures, talking to the on-site agent and giving them the stage reports and everything. And so I try to make it as exciting as possible and try to document everything for them so that the excitement is just mounting for them. And so sellers basically once a week, or generally once a week, buyers almost every day.